This is the first in a three-part series brought to you by Dr. Karen McDowell at the University of Kentucky's Gluck Equine Research Center, discussing fescue toxicosis.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to be making 3 of these short talks about equine fescue toxicosis. The first is, what is it and why should we care? Well, this is why we should care. Tall fescue occupies between 38 and 47 million acres in the U.S. alone, and most of that is east of the Mississippi River. Most frequently, it is Kentucky 31 tall fescue, but that does not mean that it is limited to Kentucky at all. It just means that Kentucky 31 fescue is very widely spread. Tall fescue is actually not native to the United States, but is native to Europe and was introduced into the U.S. in the 1800s, probably accidentally with other seed. Tall fescue is a robust perennial grass, and it contains a fungus that grows in it that gives the plant the properties of drought resistance, pest resistance, and hardiness. The fungus is called an endophyte, and it lives in between the plant cells and produces chemicals called alkaloids. The alkaloids we are most concerned with in livestock are ergot alkaloids, and their biological activity, both within and between individuals or species, may vary. Ergovaline is the most prominent of these and makes up about 90% of the ergot alkaloids in endophyte-infected tall fescue. This graph is courtesy of Krista Lay. She heads up the University of Kentucky Equine Pasture Evaluation Program, and it represents data they have collected from the year 2005 through 2017. Across the bottom shows the month of the year, and the bars show the ergovaline concentrations in tall fescue samples on horse farms. And the concentration is listed in parts per billion. The optimum temperature for growth of the fescue is between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, but by the time it gets close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, the plant growth slows down, and therefore the amount of alkaloids in the plant goes down. You can see from Krista's graph that during these years the amount of ergovaline increased from March through June and then decreased in July and August, where it typically gets hotter and drier in our area. This slide is also courtesy of Krista Lay, and although some people have reported that ergovaline concentrations are highest in the seed head of the plant, recent research from the University of Kentucky has shown that ergovaline concentrations in the bottom 3 inches of the plant are often as high or higher than in the seed head. We're talking about equine fescue toxicosis. For horses, the most well-known deleterious effects of ergot alkaloids are during late gestation. Endophyte-infected tall fescue often results in altered hormone concentrations in the mare and probably also in the fetus, resulting in extended gestation. It most likely interferes with the maturation of the fetal hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which is necessary for the fetus to signal the time of birth. While gestation is longer than normal, the fetus or foal continues to grow, increasing the risk of dystocia. Ergot alkaloids also cause reduced concentrations of prolactin and therefore reduced or no milk production. This is called agalactia. Frequently, there's also a thickening of the placenta. When the placenta is thickened, you may see what is called a red bag presentation, also known as placenta previa. This is when the thickened placenta does not break at the cervical star as it normally should, but detaches from the uterus with the foal still within the placenta. If the foal can't break through the placenta, it may suffocate in the membranes or need assistance in breaking out of the placenta. The placenta has a reddish appearance because what you are seeing are the blood-rich microcotyledons that interact with uterine endometrium for nutrient exchange. In addition to the well-known effects of late gestation mares, there are also reports of effects of tall fescue on other non-pregnant mares and other horses. These include alterations in length of the estrous cycle or hormone concentrations, decreased fertility of the mare or stallion, increased early embryonic loss, slower or reduced growth rates in yearlings and 2-year-olds on endophyte-infected fescue pastures, and reduced athletic performance. These effects are contradictorily reported in the literature, and certainly more research is needed in these areas. So what can we do about equine fescue toxicosis? Until recently, there were no diagnostic procedures. If you had a group of mares all in the same pasture, some may be affected by fescue toxicosis and some may not. So until recently, there have been no diagnostic procedures, and I will talk more about that in an upcoming short presentation. Currently, you can remove the mares from the affected pasture. If you have a pasture that has less or no tall fescue in it, that certainly reduces the chance of problems in late gestation mares. You could also administer the drug domperidone, and this certainly reduces the agalactia, and it may help to prevent prolonged gestation. It's an oral prescription product, so you need to talk with your veterinarian about when to give it and how much to give. It's also important to keep the pastures mowed to between about 4 and 8 inches, and do not let the fescue go to seed. Don't mow less than 4 inches because the alkaloids may be higher in the lower part of the plant, as I discussed earlier. Because of the problems with endophyte-infected fescue, endophyte-free tall fescue was developed. However, because the alkaloids are produced by the endophyte, when the endophyte is removed, it also removes the advantages of tall fescue of hardiness and insect resistance. Therefore, it does not persist in pastures as well as common tall fescue. So, a novel endophyte tall fescue has been developed. It still has the advantages to the plant, but is not harmful to grazing animals. And I'll talk more about our research with this novel endophyte fescue in another short topic talk. It really helps to know what is growing in your pasture. If you're not an expert in soil types, grasses, and weeds, it is very helpful to have your pastures tested. That will give you the type of forages in your pasture, and a fescue analysis reports the amount of fescue containing endophyte and the concentration of ergovaline in the plant. At the University of Kentucky, we have a very good equine pasture evaluation program, which I've already mentioned, and their website is listed here. You should contact your local extension agent on where and when to get pastures tested in your area. This is an excellent resource for everything about tall fescue. There's an online monograph that has the advantage that it can be updated when new and novel information is discovered. There's also a hardcover book called Tall Fescue for the 21st Century, and that is available online through the University of Kentucky libraries. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll talk more about tall fescue in the upcoming talks and what we have learned from cattle research, which is much more extensive than horse research, and there are a lot of lessons we can learn from cattle that may be applicable to horses. Thank you.